Pro Group Management. Workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, we're talking with Assemblywoman Danielle Gallant. She's a Republican from District 23, here for the whole show on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
When in Carson City, Nevada Newsmakers records in the conference room of the Nevada Builders Alliance. Coverage of the 2025 legislative session is brought to you by Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you. NV Energy, proudly serving Nevada, providing electricity to 2.4 million electric customers. The Retail Association of Nevada, looking out for business. And by Story County, helping build Nevada's future.
What is that?
That's the governor's funding bill for education.
It looks pretty flat. Wasn't there a plan to increase funding for our schools?
Yeah, but the governor's ignoring it.
We have to pass the plan.
A power line is more than a power line. It's maintaining the bottom line for small businesses. It's keeping the assembly line moving for our workforce. For our brightest minds, it's meeting a deadline. It's on the front line with our heroes. And on the sidelines of the biggest games. It's a direct line to our loved ones. And it's a lifeline for the most vulnerable. There's a lot on the line.
Meet Nevada Health Link, Nevada's official health insurance marketplace. Your link to savings, selection, free assistance, and name brand health insurance, where 90% of enrollees lower the cost of their monthly premium. Everyone deserves access to quality health coverage, no matter your income or family size. Visit NevadaHealthLink.com. A few minutes could save you hundreds of dollars per month.
Nevada Health Link. Our plans are made for your plans.
The state does some things even my sixth graders wonder about.
Like commissioning a study and spending thousands of hours finding out how much our schools need.
Then the governor ignores it.
And says kids get $2.
That's $2 Joe.
My students would say pass the plan.
Yeah, pass the plan.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, coming to you from Carson City, here from the home of the Nevada Builders Alliance. We're delighted to welcome to the program for the first time Assemblywoman Danielle Gallant. It is a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
You and your Assembly colleague Lisa Cole are sponsoring a bill, AB 307, that would eliminate the wholesale tax on legal cannabis cultivators. It's one of the most complicated and least transparent taxes. Explain your thoughts on this whole thing.
So my number one thought is that $15 million is in arrears last year from the cultivators being able to pay that tax, because they send the product over to retail, and then when retail finally sells it, then they pay the cultivators. But the cultivators by law have to pay it on the 30th of every single month, whether they have the money or not. So that's the number one problem. The other problem is the state says what the market value is, not what they actually sell a pound of cannabis for, but what they believe like an average, a median. So right now it's $12.96, but I'm hearing from cultivators they're selling it for about $8.50. So it's overinflating the tax, so to speak, because we are overinflating the cost of it. So the idea is still it's revenue neutral, but it would just all be paid at retail. Our hope is that because we've lowered the cost of the product in a nice capitalistic way, that it will also reduce the cost of the product at retail, even though retail might have some sticker shock with seeing this 15% tax. And then also the other hope is that we have this massive black market because cannabis is so expensive. So this way we're hoping that it reduces the product price, and then that way we will start bringing some people back into the legal marijuana sales rather than the illegal.
Did it surprise you that the legal marijuana sales were so hit by the illegal market? Because somebody on the program, I can't remember who it was, could have been Zig Bloom, shocking, that right now you can buy moonshine whiskey, but the average person is going to go to a liquor store and buy their whiskey, not buy it from a moonshiner.
Yeah.
And the same would apply, because who knew back in the day, back in the 60s, that marijuana contained all these horrible things that we've cleaned up now. But do you see the black market really being pushed back?
With this particular bill, I hope so, because if we make it more affordable, that people will say, oh, I don't want to deal with getting caught with an illegal market. I'll just go buy something legal. Now, there's always going to be the people that are going to buy an illegal market. And I think there's some socioeconomic factors when it comes to that. If you don't have a car and you could just go down to the corner and buy it from somebody rather than having to take a bus or an Uber or something like that to get it, then I don't think that we're going to be able to combat those particular situations.
But of course, a lot of these places do deliver. So
that's very expensive.
Okay.
It comes at a premium.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about the consumption lounges? Are you surprised that they have not taken off? And what can they do to actually be successful? In your thought?
Deregulate a little bit.
In what way?
So I don't actually know the details of it, but I've spoken with Thrive, the CEO of Thrive, who had smoke and mirrors, and they recently shut their doors because just the amount of regulation that they had to adhere to made it too expensive for them to operate. I actually had a fundraiser at Smoke and Mirrors this last interim. We believe I might be the first Republican in the country to do a fundraiser at a cannabis lounge. It was fun. Definitely a different group. But the reason I decided to do it was because I am a huge proponent of the industry. Nevadans voted for it to be a reputable business and something that we wanted to support here in the state. And the fact that we have these kind of preconceived notions about it and people are still looking down upon it as a business, that's not very pro-Republican. And so I wanted to make a statement and say we support all legalized business here and sort of, go out on a limb and do a fundraiser. And it was fun. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen my donors smoke a blunt at a event, but everybody seemed to have a good time and we made some history.
Do you see any change in federal law? At least in the near term.
I was reading an article that the tides have switched in terms of the direction of lawmaking. It used to be that the feds were leading the charge. And now it seems like the states individually lead the charge. And so once you hit a breaking point of over 50% of the states that have created some law like legalizing marijuana, then the federal government gets in line. It's bizarre.
Do you, it's interesting. Donald Trump, whether you love him or hate him, does not smoke, does not drink. It would seem unlikely to me that he would sign legislation that would legalize marijuana. On the other hand, one never knows with Donald Trump.
I know. He's very anti-alcohol, tobacco.
Well, he saw what he did to his brother.
Correct. And so he's got some family history around it. It's probably one of the reasons why he's one of the only presidents that didn't age when he was in office last time, because it seems like he leads a fairly healthy life other than the McDonald's.
True.
So I don't know if he has the appetite for that. But he's also very practical. So I honestly think if he believes that it's going to help his economy, it's going to help his, crime initiative, reducing crime, if it's going to possibly help the next Republican presidential candidate, I would see him being very practical and pushing that forward.
We're coming up on May 1st here in a few days. That's when we're going to get the results of how much money the legislature has to spend. A lot of people are already, without knowing what's going to come out, are saying that there's not going to be the money. What are your concerns, and especially if the federal government cuts back on Medicaid, which is a huge portion of Nevada's budget?
So they've said multiple times, Trump and his administration have said multiple times they're not going to touch Medicaid or Social Security. So
Well, they said Medicare. I'm not so sure about Medicaid.
Medicaid, oh, I thought it was the whole program. You might be correct in that. That's one of the worst things about being up here. You stop following federaal politics as closely, right?
Of course.
So I don't know. I mean, Nevada, we're scrappy, and it might hurt, but we seem to figure out our way out of various holes. But government is small here, and I think that's something that people voted for this last election cycle, and I think they're willing to kind of go through some of the struggles together in order to get out on the other side. I will say, like, what we're like over $100 million short in our sales tax collection, but it was the craziest I've ever had it TSA or through TSA and security at Harry Reid yesterday. There were so many people in town that our flight was delayed an hour. TSA took longer. It was the longest lines I've ever seen. So there might be some hope that during the summer we'll turn things around.
Well, I certainly hope so. And the nice thing about Las Vegas is that it constantly reinvents itself, and R&R does a wonderful job of promoting Las Vegas. And so, but the national ramifications of what's going on with Canada and what's going on with Mexico, those are two of our biggest international draws. But we'll have to see what happens there. In 2023, you voted against the measure that would allow physician-assisted suicide for terminally ill patients. And yet, I think you stunned a lot of people by doing a complete turnaround on this. Why?
So I didn't do a complete turnaround.
Okay.
Last session, I was actually in support of the bill, but I was having a lot of pressure from various outside, people to vote no on this thing.
From who?
I don't know if I want to go into that.
Okay.
But very religious.
All right,
okay.
religious. Okay.
Religious, and
that's not shocking.
Pro-life. Okay. And as a freshman, you're still trying to figure out the dynamics at this place. And so at the last minute, we were kind of, it was alluded that we should be a caucus no on this thing. Afterwards, I did not feel okay about my vote. Out of all my votes, that was the one I regretted.
Why?
So I used to be a marriage and family therapist, and that's what I did for 15 years before getting into real estate. The end of my career, I worked at the Jewish Home for the Aged in San Francisco, focusing on end-of-life care and counseling. I saw the suffering that people went through and just constantly pushing the morphine. That is not a way to end your life. It's not dignified. It doesn't allow you to be present. It still has a lot of pain associated with it. Morphine doesn't take all of that away. And being a huge animal lover, we rescue animals. I grew up at the San Francisco Zoo. My mom was a docent there. I saw the way we treated our animals, and it was much more humane than we treat our people. So I did not feel comfortable. So afterwards, after session, I have 3 Republican groups in my district, and I went back to all of them, gave a legislative update, and then when it was time for Q&A, I asked them if I could ask them a question. But I had to preface it in the beginning. We need to make sure that we are respectful. I cannot have side conversations. I know this is going to be a charged conversation, but I need information so I can correctly represent you on this particular issue in this building. And my husband was terrified. He was there the first time I did it. And I remember him in the audience kind of shaking his head, like, I don't think you should do this. And when I asked the question, 99% of the people in that room, all Republicans, by the way, were upset that the governor vetoed it. They wanted that option. And so at that point, I had my marching orders. They wanted me to sponsor the bill. They wanted me to lobby for it. They wanted me to talk to the governor, and they wanted me to find a pathway forward so this was an option for them.
All right. So have you had a chance to talk to the governor?
We have.
And?
So as you saw his tweet, he said he was going to veto it.
Was that because it was phrased the same way it was last session?
So there's a little bit more. So I was attempting to try to get in touch with the governor a year and a half, prior to session, so we could sit down and have a meeting about what language he would be okay with. I was attempting to follow the proper protocols, right? And I wasn't getting a meeting. So.
And yet he's a supporter of yours.
He is a supporter of mine. No, listen, I text him, but I didn't think it was appropriate on legislation and business to do it through text. I was trying to, go through
a more dignified process.
Correct. So it wasn't happening. So then we get up here and Joe Dahlia brings me the bill language and he goes, we have to turn it in like in an hour. Are you going to co-sign on this? And at that point, we just decided to do the same language because we had it, and then we would amend it however we needed to once we were able to sit down and talk with the governor. So I signed it, and then a week later, I hear from governor's staff that he's not in support of the bill. So it's like, I would have liked to sat down and talk with them about it, Since his tweet, he and I have sat down and talked about it. There was a lot of misinformation that he was getting on his end and my end as well. And so I think we are having good conversations. I don't know if it's going to happen this session, but he's willing to continue to have the conversations so that maybe we can revisit it next session.
Okay. So you're not optimistic that it can happen this session?
Probably not.
It's fascinating to me that Republicans in general are in favor of individual rights and freedoms. And it just seems to me that, for example, I don't think anybody has any business telling any woman what she should do with her body or not do with her body. I think that's an individual decision on any subject. Mm-hmm. And I think the same thing applies to end of life. If a person has the mental capacity to make that decision, they should be allowed to make that decision. And, I had many conversations with Joe Hardy, who I had really love as a person. He's a great guy.
He's my mayor.
We disagree on lots of things, but we disagree agreeably. But I think that this has been an opportunity for Joe Dahlia and yourself to be able to move this conversation along. And with other states being able to do it, it just seems absurd that we do have lots of ways to end our lives that are legal. We can buy a gun, we can turn on the car and asphyxiate ourselves that way. But it just seems that it would be such a better and more humane situation than you were describing earlier, mm-hmm. than what is currently available.
I agree. I mean, I find it kind of hypocritical when it comes to both platforms when they talk about like the foundation of their values and then see what issues they support and don't support. Abortion's a tough one, right? Because you're talking about this other life form that doesn't really have a say-so in the matter. But at the same time, I think it's become kind of part of our society, and if we took it away, it would probably put a lot more women in danger than not. And it's hard, particularly being a Republican where it's so black and white. But it seems like the Trump platform and the RNC have sort of moved away from that, even though he hasn't like concretely discussed it. I can't remember the journalist. His first name is Gabe. Gabe Stern did an article in the AP when Sam Brown's wife came out and said that she had had an abortion. And somebody had suggested that he come and talk to me. And he asked me an interesting question. And he goes, where do you stand on this issue as, being a politician? And I pretty much said there is no place in either party for how I look at this issue. It's not black and white. I think it's nuanced. So that's a difficult topic. And then
Can you share that nuance?
Well, I guess I'll share a personal story. So here we go. My husband and I have 2 kids. And during COVID, I had an oops pregnancy. And he was ecstatic and I wasn't, because I was done having kids. And he looked at me and said, I know you're not happy about this. What do you want to do? And for a split moment, I thought, I guess that is an option. We sat down and we really talked about it. And I said to him, I can't. And he goes, why not? And I said, because I want to do it for selfish reasons, not because we don't have the resources or the room or the support or the finances. Like, I just, like, I'm done being pregnant and taking care of little babies. But I know once I have this baby, I'm going to love this baby. So it was the first time in my life that I was actually kind of hit with this question, because every other time we just wanted to have the baby. We were excited about it. So it got me to understand sometimes the position that women are in, if they feel like they just like can't handle it, or their lives are in too much turmoil, or they can't afford it. I mean, having children is not for the faint-hearted, that's for sure. So that's kind of why, that's a lot of the reason why I changed my position on that. Unfortunately, the baby didn't come to term, and so God had his own plans. But it definitely opened up my eyes to the struggles that women go through.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back more with Assemblywoman Danielle Gallant after this time out.
The trucking industry is the most resilient link in the supply chain. And for over 90 years, the Nevada Trucking Association has been the voice for the men and women in the trucking industry. From Carson City to Washington, D.C., we advocate for policies to protect our trucking companies and keep commerce flowing. Because Nevada's and America's prosperity is tied to trucks. There's nothing without trucking.
Pro Group Management offers workers' comp services to a growing number of industries. As businesses grow and change with the times, the need for a solid workers' comp program must be flexible and up to date. The evolving nature of regulations can make staying ahead of complex tasks challenging. But Pro Group Management simplifies the work so your industry can move forward and succeed. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Like a traditional handmade basket, retail is woven into the fabric of life in Nevada. From big box to mom and pop, retail supports our communities in countless ways. Jobs for the disabled, team uniforms for kids, help for the elderly, and so much more. Retail employs over 1 in 10 workers. Retail supports Nevada, and we support retail.
RANNV.org. Your good times are at Tamarack Casino during the $150,000 Denim and Diamonds giveaways, with cash and free play drawings every Thursday and Saturday, and $30,000 in grand finale giveaways Saturday, May 31st, including a top prize of $20,000 guaranteed. Your good times are at Tamarack Casino.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Assemblywoman Danielle Gallant. She's a Republican from District 23. AB 487, cracking down on puppy mills. Exactly what are you trying to do?
Oh, that was such a hard vote, because I love animals and I get that the conditions with the puppy mills are awful. But we have Nevadans who have built businesses around a license and a model that Nevada said was legal. And with a stroke of a pen, we could make it illegal and put those Nevadan families in a real pinch. So I didn't think that the answer was outline it completely, but to heavily regulate it so that we can improve the conditions of the animals.
More on this after this time out.
Welcome to Story County, where history meets innovation and a pioneering spirit continues to shape our future. At the heart of the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center, we power the future with global leaders in technology and manufacturing, driving progress that reaches far beyond our county lines. From advanced manufacturing to tech innovation, our industries are creating thousands of quality careers, fueling a vibrant economy that benefits every Nevadan. Our community is our foundation. Be part of a legacy built on bold ideas and boundless possibilities. Story County, helping build Nevada's future.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
Carson Valley Inn, it's your place for the good.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Assemblywoman Danielle Gallant. The bill AB 225, known as the barbershop bill, just all these rules that cover all these different industries. GOED is trying to cut down on the number of committees, et cetera. Are you in favor of all that? Because it would seem like that would be a really good idea.
So it's BNI that's trying to cut down on the boards and commissions. We've got.
I'm sorry, yes, BNI.
That's okay. Yes. Chris Sanchez is amazing.
And he was on the show, so I
good.
I love smarter than that.
Okay, good. So, I mean, we're ranked like 49 in the state for regulation. And the fact that the fact that barbershops had to have more, experiential hours in training than our police officers seems asinine. Particularly, we have Metro has one of the most world-renowned police forces. I mean, they are phenomenal. So I think we need to just bring it into common sense and stop making these boards and commissions protectionists of their industry, right? Reduce the amount of barbers, they make more money, and actually refocus what those boards and commissions are supposed to do, which is to actually protect the public.
And that's where we have to leave it. Thank you so much. Right. Obviously, we have so much more to do. Come back, please.
I will. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And we'll be right back.
Each day, the Children's Advocacy Alliance partners with leaders, legislators, and families across Nevada to improve children's health, education, economic well-being, and safety. We recognize Nevada will be no better than the state of its children. Be a part of this change. Be a supporter of the Children's Advocacy Alliance. For more information, go to caanv.org.
The Nevada Builders Alliance has been protecting the interests of the construction industry for over 50 years. Our programs save members thousands of dollars every year and allow them to provide much-needed benefits to their employees. Our industry also allows Nevada to grow. If you're thinking about a career in the construction industry, reach out. And if you haven't thought of a career in construction, what are you waiting for? We are the Nevada Builders Alliance.
When in Carson City, Nevada Newsmakers records in the conference room of the Nevada Builders Alliance. Coverage of the 2025 legislative session is brought to you by Pro Group Management, Workers' Comp that works for you. NV Energy, proudly serving Nevada, providing electricity to 2.4 million electric customers. The Retail Association of Nevada, looking out for business. And by Story County, helping build Nevada's future.
Thanks for watching Nevada Newsmakers, coming to you from Carson City, from the headquarters of the Nevada Builders Alliance. We'll see you on the next broadcast. Thanks for watching.